So we've created a procedure that will open up a text file, tab delimited text file, copy the contents, and then paste it back into our master Excel document. Now, what I want to do next is make our macro more flexible, more reusable, because right now our procedure is referencing a very specific text file, and it will always be that text file. I want to open this up and allow the user, when they run the procedure, when they run the macro, I want to allow them to select a single or perhaps multiple text files from their system, from their computer, wherever they're located at. I don't want to hard code. We want to try to stay away from any hard coding, such as file paths, literal file paths inside of our code. Make it more flexible. Allow the user to choose. Okay, so let's open up the Visual Basic Editor. On my keyboard, I'm going to press the shortcut key of Alt F11. Let's get the Visual Basic window back open here. Make sure I'm clicked inside there. All right. So here's my procedure that we left off with in the previous exercise. Now let's make this more dynamic. Well, let's get into the code here. I'm going to move this around so we can see a little bit more of it. There we go. All right, we've got this variable dim text file of type workbook. And here's where we set it equal to opening up a very specific text file located on my computer in this very specific directory. Well, that's not very flexible. If we send this to somebody else, of course, the files may not always be in the same spot. Files change, locations change, computer directories change, whatever it is. Let's make this more dynamic. All right, so I'm going to create another variable here. Let's get into our code. And let's say, drop down a line, I'm going to create another variable. We'll call this open files. All right. Now, I'm going to create this open files variable as an array. Potentially, I want users to pick a single file that they want to import or multiple files. And the way that we create arrays or collections of objects inside of Excel VBA is first we declare the variable dim, I give it a name, open files, and then I'm going to open up a pair of parentheses, open close. This denotes this variable as an array or something. It's a collection that can hold multiple values, multiple objects or values or whatever. It's a collection of content. And this is going to be of type variant. And what I mean by variant, it's not a workbook, it's not an integer, it's not a string. This is a variant. It could be anything. I could put whatever I like, whatever collection of values I want. This could be workbooks or integers or text or strings. It could be anything. It's a variant value or variant type. All right, so now that we've got that, I've got this new variable called open files. Well, now, down here below, we're currently setting the text file workbook object equal to a very specific text file. Well, I don't want to do that anymore, so I'm going to wipe out this reference to this location on my computer, that very specific text file, and now I want to open up a open window in the import window, the browse window, so my users can now go look for files that they want. Okay, so I've gotten rid of that. Let's get back up here, and I'm going to tell it that open files, that variable that we just created there, open files, is equal to, and I'm going to use a method here. I'm going to use a technique to be able to grab the file that I want, okay? Or get into the open window so that users or yourself can go grab the file that they want. I'm going to get into the application. Now let's spell that right. The application itself, this is like top level. This is talking to Excel, the application. And the application itself has methods and properties that we can take advantage of. And I'm going to use a method here called GetOpenFilename. And what I'm going to do here is two things. I'm going to give this opening window. This is like the browse window. If you were to go to File to Open inside of Excel, you open up the browse window or the File Open window. So I'm going to give it a title. This will show up at the top of the browse window. And I'm going to say select files to import. That'll show up at the top of the window. And potentially, I'm going to allow the user to select multiple files. So I'm going to set the multi-select argument of the GetOpenFilename method to true. So now users can pick a single file or they can pick multiple files. It's their choice. All right. So now I've got this new variable. It's an array of type of variant. So you can store whatever you like in there. What we're going to store in there is the browse window or the results of the browse window, whether it's a single file or it is multiple files that are going to be coming back to me. All right. So now that I've got that, let's just clean up my code here a little bit. All right. I'm going to now go back to my setTextFile workbooks.open method, and where earlier I told it, hey, you're going to be opening up this very specific file path, this text file that you're going to go to, but now I want to get the contents of this open files array that we just created, where the users are picking files. So I'm going to tell it, open files. There we go. Now, it's an array, meaning it's a collection. Users can pick a single file or multiple files. Well, we need to tell it which file are the users going to open, or which one are we actually going to read from and open up. So I'm going to open up the parentheses again, and arrays inside of our Excel environment are one-based, meaning that the first item in the array is at the index position of 1. It's at the first position. Second one at 2, third one at 3, and so on. So I'm only going to run with one file for right now, so I'm just going to put a number 1 in there. We're going to open up the file within the open files variable, and we're going to tell it to grab the first file that it finds in there. So if the users pick multiple files at this point, it'll still just open up the 1. But we're making it more dynamic. Okay, users can now pick where the file is located at. Let me drop down a line here. All right, everything else I'm going to leave the same. So all we're doing here is making it more dynamic. We're allowing users to now pick from this GetOpenFilename method of the application. Open up the browse window, pick a file, and then our procedure will read the contents of that file that you chose and do the rest. Copy it, paste it, and so on. All right, so let's try this out. Let's put it into action here. I'm going to move my window out of the way. Let's minimize that. I'm going to insert a new sheet because I've already got something on this sheet. And let's run our procedure. So I'll go up to View, Macros, View Macros, and there's my import text file. I'm going to go ahead and run it. All right, so now I get my import window, and I can see up at the top, select Files to import. I'm going to go grab one of those files. It's in my OneDrive. It's in Office Noob and Videos, Microsoft Office, Excel VBA, and let's grab February this time. So it opens up the February content. There it is. It's in copy mode like we had before. I'm going to go ahead and say, no, I don't want to keep the clipboard. And there's my data. There's my February data imported in. Much more dynamic, right? We're now allowing the users to choose. We're not dictating a specific file for them to go to, but we're saying, hey, we're going to open up this browse window for you using the GetOpenFilename method of the application object, and we're going to open it up. You grab the file or files that you want. We'll read the contents and paste it in for you. We'll import that data. Just provide where the file's at. So try this out. Open up the Visual Basic Editor, edit your macro, edit the procedure that we created earlier, and make it more dynamic. Allow your users to pick which file or files they want to import into Excel. Try it out.